So I think it's really a great experiment to look at your competition first, look at your business second, and then play with how you can spin these around. The best way is to understand the different business models that exist and the different pricing models that exist, and figure out how might you innovate around what currently exists as your business model and your competitors' business models and some of the other versions of that that could come into being. So you have 14 primary business models. Almost everything falls into one of these. Even if it's Uber, which one of these, as far as I hail an Uber from my app and I get in it and it takes me where I want to go and I get out, which business model is that? Pay as you go, okay. What else? Network, okay. One more. Retail direct sale. Also, broker, right? Uber is brokering. And here's the one that most people miss, and that's why I like this exercise, landlord-tenant. Who owns the car? The driver. Who's renting the space in the car? The passenger. Only for a few minutes probably, but still it's a landlord-tenant relationship. So even a tech company can be a landlord-tenant based thing. That's why I say if you really go down to the roots, you only have about 14 business models. You also have 14 primary pricing models. You can have free, supported by ads, value-based, tiered, volume, etc., etc. So when you take a look at all of these and you start charting them out, it looks like this. You say Uber has, and I do a 3x3 matrix, right? So you guys have this. The business model at top, what's the primary, secondary, and tertiary or third business model? And what's the primary, secondary, or tertiary pricing model? Let's break it down for Uber. If you're Lyft, how do we compete with these guys? We're Lyft. Well, first let's chart out this leader before we start this company. And what's the primary business model? It's a broker business model. That's the primary model, is that we're going to connect drivers with passengers. How are we going to make money? Now we're Uber. How are we going to make money? We're going to make money by charging a 15 to 30% brokerage fee as a commission for brokering this relationship and providing this passenger. By the way, according to the Uber drivers I'm talking to, that fee is going to 50% or already has, right? So Uber is kind of stepping up the vig there. So that's the primary model. The secondary model is the landlord-tenant model. Landlord-tenant model is that the drivers are renting the car space to the passengers that are brokered to them by Uber. And the pricing model is tiered based on the type of car you requested. You want a black car? That costs more than an Uber pool, okay? Secondarily, they do it based on distance in miles, because if you're going to go farther, then you're going to have to pay a little bit more for that. And then my favorite one of these, which we all know and love, is called surge pricing, right? How about we charge you 5 times as much because a lot of other people want to do this right now? But that's something that we wouldn't think about if we didn't know what all these pricing models were, right? So you might have stopped here, but if you stopped here, you didn't invent Uber. So I think it's really a great experiment to look at your competition first, look at your business second, and then play with how you can spin these around. Now they also have a third model, that's called the affiliate model. When they're going into a new territory, they pay referral fees and give premiums for new customers. And they also have to build drivers because it's a network effect company. So to help them get to the network effect critical mass faster, they incentivize both the referral of the passengers, the consumers, and the drivers, the providers. And that goes back to helping them be a better broker. This again is something to me that's perfect for an offsite, but really do it and say, what if I played with this model? What if I played with this model? What if I did this pricing with this? What's my secondary? What's my tertiary, right? Now we go to brand and product value curve. So now you have got an idea of your competitive advantage. You've got an idea of the business model and the pricing model that you want to use. Now it's time to say, what about our product value curve? So identify the 3 to 7 factors that you want your product to have and that your customers demand. Now you can go to the competitive advantage sheet and pull the things that you wrote that everybody wants and needs. Then say which factors should be reduced below industry norms, which factors should be raised above, what new benefits should be created that aren't currently in existence, and also what features should be eliminated that the industry offers. This is how can I simplify my product while differentiating it from everybody else. A great example, iPhone 1. New user experience elevating. Things that you can do on a computer you can now do in your hand. Eliminate things. They took away the keyboard. Simplify. They took all the buttons and ports off. And then what did they create? They created a whole new user interface. Instead of doing the little T9 typing that we used to have, now we had touchscreen. Does anybody remember T9? Yes. That was awful. Awful. Instead of having many devices, now we only have one, and they created this amazing thing called the App Store where we could download all the things that allowed us to do more and more and more things. And by the way, they created a marketplace for that as well. And that meant everybody else was programming and developing, so they didn't have to. So let's look at this from an industry standpoint. So if the industry, like the cosmetics industry, has a high price, has fancy packaging and advertising, lots of high-tech science, super glamorous models and celebrities, and lots of chemicals, that's the industry curve. High, 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 low. We're Body Shop, and we say, hey, we want to do something different in this industry. How do we do this differently? So they say, well, number one, let's see if we can reduce the price. What can we do to reduce the price? Well, I'll tell you what, we can stop all that fancy packaging. We can just do something simple, but simple can be good. Simple's actually on trend right now. We can not focus on all the science because how big or small can your pores ultimately get, right? And then what if we don't use all the fancy and super expensive models and celebrities? Let's just focus on natural ingredients because that's super on trend. What if we have super on trend natural ingredients and we give it to them at a great price and we kind of go against all this other stuff, and maybe we even say, do you really want to put all those chemicals on your face? And also, we know that there's a trend called healthy living. Now, 3 of these things came from trend analysis, which we go way back to the beginning, remember day 1? And so they say we're going to create a low-priced, simple packaging, low-tech, not glamorous, heavy natural, heavy representation of healthy living product, and they build a huge company. So you can do the same thing. What you want to do here is just pick those factors, those 3, 5, 7 factors that are important. Ideally, you take that from the competitive advantage thing. You write them down there and you chart where your industry is right now, and then you think about how can I go against that? How can I differentiate on those points?